you so much for coming to this workshop tonight. I'm very grateful for your presence and to fight the traffic with President Trump coming to town. So I hope to make this workshop great again. And I know you all know who I am, Naomi Stolman, and I'm the founder of Innovative Leadership Solutions, focusing on speaking, executive coaching, and consulting. And I work with leaders who want to cultivate meaningful relationships, healthy cultures, and prolific teams. I'm a coach at my core. And just for some quick introductions, I'd like you to share who you are, what you do, and what's one word that would describe you. Can't be an animal.
Okay. Jennifer Hale, and I'm Naomi's good friend. We've known each other for many years. I'm a veterinarian, and one word to describe myself, determined.
Ooh, I love it. All right.
My name is Mike Gregory. I have a couple of different firms, Michael Gregory Consulting. It's a firm that focuses on conflict resolution. I'm a qualified mediator with the Minnesota Supreme Court, and I mediate business to business, within businesses, and between business and government. And I have a second business called The Collaboration Effect. I'm a professional speaker. I give over 50 presentations a year, US and Canada, and I focus on taking advantage of the collaboration effect. I work with some neuroscientists, and that's now actually a trademark item, and it's something we can do to help resolve conflicts and work towards collaboration to resolve issues. One word I'd say for me would be integrity.
Ooh, love it. So if we have conflict from somebody that's determined with integrity issues, Mike's our guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Good evening. My name is Tex Osvig. I currently work at the University of Minnesota, where I've been there for now 25 years. I work in the areas of social justice. I also work in the areas of equity and diversity, as well as working with mentoring at the University of Minnesota. We work with approximately 22 to 3,500 students a year, trying to help them be successful from first day of classes to the last day of graduation. In addition to that, I'm also a coach in athletics, and so I coach football in the fall, wrestling in the winter, rugby in the spring, and soccer in the summer. And on top of that, I'm also starting my own nonprofit organization to help inner city kids and youth to become more acclimated for hope and inspiration through sports. And I'm looking forward to kind of going through that venue to see what it takes to start a nonprofit and try to help our underprivileged youth of color that come from low-income experiences. And the one word that I would probably use is positive. I try to look at everything that is around us. We can look at it two sides, and I try to find the brighter side of everything.
As we're at the Positive Coaching Alliance office building,
Correct.
we own the whole thing, by the way. Wonderful. I'm glad we had a chance to get to know each other, and I want to tell you about a story, a friend of mine whose name is Heather. You'd like her, now that we all have something in common. Heather had a tireless work ethic. She was determined, she was driven to maximize her potential as a collegiate student athlete. Heather was a natural leader. She was energizing, she was fun, and she was respected by her peers, teammates, coaches, and professors. You could count on Heather to put in the extra effort for practice and to commit fully to the off-season strength and conditioning program. Heather had this awesome experience in college and dreamed one day of being a collegiate basketball coach. And she wanted to instill a positive difference in the life of her players and also help them maximize their potential, just like she experienced in college. Upon graduation, she was able to teach and coach in a public school district, and with that, she applied her same determination and work ethic so that she could be successful in helping these students. She taught middle school physical education and then was coaching at the high school level. And she would get the job done, even if it took staying up till 2 in the morning to correct homework and be up at 5, or serving as the assistant coach for 3 high school teams at the same time, and still having a social life. Heather was like the Energizer Bunny. She kept going and going and going. Then, even in just 1 year, she was living the dream. She was coaching at the college level as an assistant women's basketball coach. In fact, she was the recruiting coordinator, and she was determined to get the job done. She would be successful. So she thought to herself, I'll know what I'll do. I'll outwork my competition, and I'll personalize my recruiting efforts. And Heather did just that. She would sometimes drive 4 to 5 hours one way to watch a high school game and be back in the office at 8 a.m. Sometimes she would be on the road 5 days a week. Sometimes she would stay up once or twice a week just to keep up with the phone calls, the correspondence, and the emails. Well, the results were fruitful, yet Heather was fried.
She burned out.
Yeah.
Through it all and doing it all, she couldn't keep up the pace. The grind had stripped her of her superpowers. She needed to get her batteries recharged. She realized she was human, per se, mentally, emotionally, relationally, spiritually, physically, the whole gamut. Heather resigned from her position, and that was very difficult because up to that point, she had never quit anything in her life, and she thought her dream was dead. Heather suffered from superhero syndrome. Perhaps you struggle with it too. Perhaps you have colleagues that struggle with it, or those you lead. It's very common, in fact. I've had it, as this was a personal story of me, which of all the people here, I'm sure you're not surprised. So, what is it, as leaders especially, why can't we ask other people to help us? Why is that so hard? I want you to take a moment and think to yourself, possible couple answers, and then we'll do a triangle share, and we'll have about 1 minute, and then we'll discuss and move on. So take some time for some thoughts. You don't need to write anything down yet. But why is it so hard for people, especially leaders, to ask for help? Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead and you can talk amongst yourselves.
Don't know that Heather has her priorities all squared away. Don't know that Heather knows how to delegate maybe as effectively. I don't know that Heather necessarily listens as well as maybe she could to understand what she could do for herself as others. Those are my initial thoughts. Your thoughts?
I think in relation to why people don't ask for help, being at the University of Minnesota, it's actually kind of a very interesting correlation that the one thing that our students are challenged to do is raise their hands in class.
Mm.
And I think one of the things that we've realized is our society has taught us that asking for help is really a sign of weakness. Yet we're trying to change the mindset to our students that asking for help is actually a sign of courage. It's a sign of bravery to say, I can't do this on my own, I need support and assistance. And again, after the many years I've seen at the university, our students feel like, and they've told us they're intimidated in a social setting to actually physically raise their hand and ask for help.
Maybe saying they're not willing to, they have a concern about being vulnerable in front of others.
I would say yes.
Sure.
Taking that risk is a scary thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say maybe as a leader you wouldn't ask for help because you didn't want to impose anything on anyone, or you thought you should be able to do everything yourself. Maybe another reason could be that you might have in your mind that you know what you want done, and it'd be easier just to do it yourself than to try to explain it to someone or have them have their own ideas perhaps, which isn't necessarily right, but you think it might be quicker because you're trying to get so many things done.
It can be.
Yeah.
Those are definitely all valid reasons and very intriguing to learn about just the courage to raise a hand in class. That, I mean, something so simple yet could be taken for granted just with the courage to take that risk. And so there's all these different reasons why it can be hard to ask for help. And yet, if somebody, a friend or somebody else asks you for help, would you deny them? Probably not. So let's move past the I can do this by myself syndrome and reframe what asking for help is all about. I learned this acronym at the Women's Coaches Symposium at the University of Minnesota a few years ago, and I apologize, I'm not sure who to give credit to in terms of the speaker. But thriving leaders are hungry. They're hungry to learn and grow. They're energized because they're motivated to maximize their potential, and their energy is contagious on others. They're leaders in understanding they must lead themselves first in order to effectively lead others. And then they ask for help from a position of strength and not one of weakness. If you were to create a recipe to be a thriving leader, what would be your ingredients? So you're going to refer to your handout, and the very top it says My Ingredients. You're going to have 60 seconds to write down as many thriving leader qualities, characteristics, anything that you can think of to pour on the piece of paper in 60 seconds. And someone got a head start.
I stopped.
Okay, go! I'm going to cut you off at 58 seconds. So. Just kidding. Do you need a pen? Well, they're new, so. Do I need to extend your time? And stop. Pens down.
Oh.
Very dramatic, I know. Now what I'd like you to do is put a F next to the ingredient that's functional in nature. So if it has something to do with a leader doing something task related, and then you're going to put an R next to the ingredient that's relational. So anything that's about being supportive, being encouraging. Then what I'd like you to do is add up how many F's you have and how many R's you have. And if you're unsure what would fit into a category, you can ask, or it might be something that's an outlier. So for functional related, what are your total numbers?
3.
3. Mike?
4.
4. Tex?
4.
4. For a grand total, to do math, 11. Relational?
2.
2.
9.
9. Woo!
5.
5. All right, so actually, this is very unique. Usually what happens is that for leaders, they're more comfortable in the doing aspect, the functional aspect. And we had one ringer that carried us through
Outlier, sorry.
who was fantastic, and that's why you're such a great leader. And this here, focusing on the being, the supporting, the encouraging, the relational aspect of leading, that's fantastic, because you may be surprised, but the most effective and high-performing leaders are able to be equipped and empowered in both areas. Both are equally important.
So it's maybe balanced better. So being a 3, 2, and 4, 5 might even be better than